There he is.
Hi, John.
How you doing, Conrad?
Good. It looks like Joe Duane is there. There he is.
Here's Joe.
Hi, Joanne.
How you doing?
Can't
Say,
comp-
I've got this recorded not on the iCloud this time. It's in. I'm recording it, as they say, locally.
On your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it makes what's called an MP4 file,
Okay.
which is a format for video. It's a video, like an MP3 is audio and MP4 is video too.
Okay.
And I think then that's a file that you either upload directly to YouTube, and so YouTube does not use MP4. It converts it to its own video form. So
Okay.
but the only way you can upload it to YouTube is if you have a YouTube account, and there's no
Right.
reason for you to create your own account. I mean, it should go into the all at one place. Although since I just checked, and I see for some reason Peter has now has uploaded two files, two sessions
Okay.
and he called the channel that he created Exeter Climate Action Leadership,
Yes.
which is a good name.
Nice.
But when I go to the channel, I was looking at it today. I just listened to it this earlier, and so when I clicked I subscribed to the channel, and then when I wanted to go to the channel and look, and I got to the channel, and it said there are no videos in it. So he didn't quite get it, so that it knows that those two things belong together. But I mean, he has to be uploading it to the channel, I think. Anyway, I don't quite understand that. But anyway, you should be eventually able to go to our channel, and if we've made 10 recordings, they should all just be in one place in that channel.
Sure.
That's how a channel works in YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah.
So like years ago, I did I was part of a group that was a group here in Newburyport that was arranging concerts, sort of roots music. And
Yeah.
so one of the acts we had was the Van Trapp singers, who were the grandchildren of one of the Van Trapp children.
Of course. Yeah.
And we had them, and I had to get some performance of them, and I found another source on, I guess it was on YouTube or somewhere. I found it, and so but I had to create a YouTube channel for the Belleville Roots, which is the name of our group. And so those two things are in this channel. And what's really interesting is that was like, I don't know, 7 years ago, something like that. And sometime in this past year, when COVID was, so for some reason, all of a sudden, I started getting 5 or 6 people a week joining that channel, wanting to get more Von Trapp. So they just get, the word got out that there were these Von Trapp recordings. So anyway, it was there, and I don't know how many. I have like well over 100 people who seem to have subscribed to that channel, and of course nothing has happened on it for 7 years. But they love it. They all.
Hey, Whit.
Hi,
Hey,
Whit.
John.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
So is
Great.
that a lodge that you're in, Whit? It looks like
Not
sort of
at the moment. This is our home, our converted.
right.
What you see behind me is a converted tack room that's attached to a stable. The stable is now Pam's art studio and office, and the tack room is a big living room now.
Oh, so are you back home then?
I'm back home. I
Oh,
was.
I see.
Yep,
Okay,
I'm back
I
home.
thought you were. Yeah. Okay.
Was back home
Tack
yesterday.
room. Nice.
Mm.
The fishing was terrible, but I had a really nice time with my son. So
Did you catch anything?
I did. I caught
Yeah.
one nice salmon. I had one Atlantic salmon even come close to a fly that made itself visible. And I caught that one. It was a very nice, strong, fresh from the sea, 12-pound hookbill, which is a male.
Uh-huh.
My son had just 5 minutes earlier hooked and lost a much bigger one. And he caught two smaller fish that, if they've been at sea only 1 year, they're called grilts when they return to the freshwater.
I learned new information for me. I didn't know that.
Yep. And he caught 2 of those earlier in the week. But other than that, nothing. That river was absolutely barren. Sometimes it's alive with jumping fish, rolling fish, cavorting fish. And this time, I think the most we saw in any one day was 5.
Wow.
So the water's been high for a long time. So these fish aren't stupid. They take advantage of the water when it's high to get up to their spawning grounds.
So you think they had already gone by, or?
The speculation is that most of them had gone by.
I see. So you were so this used to be the time of the high water, but it had already
It used to
It'd
be.
been high for another month.
Yes,
or something.
this time of year, this week is the last week of the season.
Yeah,
And they like to give any late arriving fish chance to get up, get to go upstream and spawn without harassment by anglers. But, who knows?
Yeah. yeah.
No, I mean, climate change is so evident when I
Yeah.
go up there. I've been going up there since I was an early teenager.
Uh-huh.
And, the leaves by now, most of them would have dropped,
Yeah.
changed color and dropped.
Yeah.
And color was just coming in last week.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
crazy. I mean, it's like at least 3 weeks later than normal. And I watched it progress over the years. I
Mhm.
used to go up bird hunting in conjunction with a week of salmon fishing, and it's no use taking a gun up anymore because you can't see anything that flies.
Well, on that same thing about just dramatic changes from a while ago. So when one of the years we were at Exeter, I think it was our upper year, but I may be wrong. But it seems to me that there was a record set for the number of consecutive days that the temperature was below zero or something, and it was like 20 day. Do you remember there was just an incredible cold snap for one
Yes.
year?
I remember.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
I
I
mean,
remember-
it doesn't even come close. But so that was 55 years ago, 56 years ago.
Remember, we used to get a day or maybe two, I guess, for Thanksgiving. And
Yeah.
I live close enough I could go home. And then I always pondered and would call my folks, should I bring my hockey skates? Is there ice on the pond, on the property yet?
And there sometimes were.
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes
sometimes it was.
Mhm,
So
yeah,
I take my skates home.
but that
and-
not anymore.
Oh, boy, not even close to it.
Yeah,
It's really remarkable differences in our lifetimes, no question.
yeah.
I mean, that's anecdotal, but it's also happens to be true. We've all witnessed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think today's Exeter students and people in their 20s or so, if they're concerned about climate change, they haven't lived it the way we have. I mean,
right.
they're seeing what's happening now, but
Yes.
they probably couldn't even believe what used to be true. And I guess it used to be true that Boston Harbor used to freeze,
Yes.
not in our lifetimes, but
No.
it wasn't that, it was
It
maybe
can't-
50.
It may have, yes, it may have, but it was only about 5 years ago that the Buzzards Bay froze solid, and that was a real anomaly in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
But it does happen, and people used to go out, they used to count on sea ice to go out to many islands on the Maine coast.
Yeah,
So they could, build their shelters or houses or, harvest timber or whatever. Forget it,
Yeah. There was another, what did I recently read or hear? I think it was something I read. It was about, a native, maybe it was, Alaskan. It was some woman talking about how, their livelihood depended on the sea ice that they were used to going, and now they don't have it anymore.
Oh,
So
it's true of almost all those native villages in Alaska.
they just
I mean, you think we've got climate change here. Think about what's happening in Alaska.
much faster up there.
And much more dramatic impact on
Life.
on native life.
Right. Well, I thought John Whitlock said he was going to be here, and I don't see him, obviously, unless he's not on my screen.
No, I have a control here. People, for some reason, even though I said anybody could get in without being admitted, somehow they're asking me to admit people.
Yeah, that's a
Nobody online to be admitted. With just the four of us right now.
that's a sort of a tricky thing to turn off and on, but anyway, eventually you can get it so that anyway, it's part of how you set up a meeting, and it's
Right.
It's not the most well. So what I wanted to do today, and I think we just sort of start. I listened to to last week's session with Andrew again today, and it's really nice to have those recordings. I don't know if any of you have you listened to it at all or watched it, because it's I find it useful. What I felt, I mean, I think what we have proposed and what was mostly talked about last week were things that were in the proposal, but I just think that the 5-paragraph statement of purpose that we have is our working proposal plan for something to do. And I think we should stay with that, with the core of that, and try to see, I think toward the end of the session, Joe asked Andrew directly if, you know, if he thought that proposal was something that could happen, and he kind of, you know, he said, yes, I think it can, but then he talked about how they, you know, it may be very difficult. But so one of the things that I think we can try to talk more about on Wednesday is, is there anything more we can do to help make that happen? I mean, I think it's, you know, he has to, I don't want to, I think it mostly has to come from people at Exeter, and he's going to be the lead. And then if we'll see, maybe he's going to show up at the meeting on Wednesday with two more faculty members or more that are interested in this. I don't know. He certainly said something near the end of the session on Tuesday that he wanted to talk to some people. I mean, he was planning to try to recruit some more people. He didn't, I think when we talked about students, he didn't necessarily say, he had something in mind, but I don't, you know, if we could, he did, but he did say, to his credit, he said that, you know, having more people calling for this, supporting this, asking about it, being interested in it was going to help. So, I mean, that's kind of like the, you know, the critical mass thing. If there were 50 people knocking on the door of the staff at Exeter saying, we want a course about climate change, that would, you know, that would help, I think. And I don't know if there's any way that we can encourage that, but I just wanted to sort of go through my idea for the meeting with, we could do it today too, but for the meeting on Wednesday would be to just spend a little bit of time looking at each of the paragraph about climate. And do we think that includes the essence of what has to be there about climate? And is there something that they don't, you know, and then the same for action, if you know, that lists some things that we think are important. And then leadership, and there's some more stuff in there. And then there finally, you know, the biggest paragraph by just a couple of lines is the one on curriculum, because that's, you know, if we can't ask for and get something in curriculum, then, you know, what are we asking for? Like, you know, I mean, that's the thing that we can, I think, most influence. We can't, and I was thinking more about this with Joe Simons when we were, you know, when we started working on what was called the ESI program, Environmental Sustainability Initiative. We talked a lot about curriculum, but we didn't have a concrete proposal for a specific course with you know, the degree of you know, the information that's been listed in that paragraph on curriculum to the extent that we do now. So that, you know, so that the two things that are different is I think we have a much more concrete proposal for action, and we're 7 years farther into the crisis. I mean, and more people, you know, and I suppose the other thing that could have happened is that there's, you know, maybe when Andrew took on the task of being the sustainability coordinator, there was kind of a go ahead, you know, a message to say, yeah, we want to move on this, rather than, and before the people we were working with, Jason Miller and then even Betsy Stevens at first were, you know, they were mostly working with environmental programs for students at the various, you know, groups of students doing things, but it wasn't really trying to change the world to respond to an existential crisis in the way that people begin to understand it right now. So does anybody do you have any, I mean, I have been reading our statement of purpose once a day, at least for the last 4 or 5 days, because I think it's a good read. I enjoy it. So Jonathan, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Well, yeah, well, on that last point you made of the statement of purpose, I sent it to my first cousin, who was the head of the English department at Hotchkiss for many years, and before that Deerfield, and her husband was the headmaster there for 10 years.
Mhm.
My first cousin, she's like my sister.
Uh-huh.
And she is very, very savvy and very knowledgeable about the whole climate aid, and very, very worried about it. She's an activist, very, very strongly, very passionate about it. She's 5 years older than I am.
Uh-huh.
She thought it was phenomenal.
Good.
She thought it was great. So I asked her how they saw this whole initiative and whether she knew of things like that in the rest of this and the independent school system, because they're very well connected, particularly with Kendra O'Donnell, who's one of their really good friends and also a very good friend of Bill Rawson's.
Bill Rawson's, yes.
And very influential still at Exeter.
Mhm.
That's one. So she was extremely impressed. She hasn't come back to me on initiative. Like I said, eventually we want to have other schools connected and we want to have other classes. And we want to have as big a footprint as possible and have as much influence as possible. So any way you can think of doing that, we'll really appreciate it.
Yeah.
At this point, we're just basically two classes represented and mainly one.
Right.
At the same time, I also talked with Jim Rogers about our goal to have somehow both Rawson and the trustees in the loop early, so that they're not surprised or think that we're playing little games trying to create pressure on them, which probably often happens, particularly with big donors and things. And he he said he would be happy to bring it up in his monthly call with Rawson. He thought he could easily do that.
Oh, good. Okay.
And explain what that this was, did he know about it, and what we're looking for, in terms of mobilizing more people, more stakeholders in the system behind this, so that it all converges towards action.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely on board for that. So
Good.
I thought that was very, very good. And then he connected with Nat, and they had a similar conversation.
This is in the past several days.
In the past several days, yes, because they know each other fairly well, and so they've had a couple of conversations. Nat,
Jim-
I'm sure.
Jim
I'm trying to
Rogers,
remember. Whit, were you in advanced French with me? Who? I mean, I know Nat was in that course.
I was.
Was Jim Rogers in that course? I think I had a class with Jim Rogers at some point.
Was Jim a year ahead of us?
He's a year ahead of us. Yeah, he's
And a hockey player, right?
Hockey player, golfer, a really good golfer.
a good golfer. Yes, I mean, I'm trying to remember how I knew him well, relatively well. So, but I can't remember how it is. He wasn't on the track team, I know.
I remember him as a really nice, mature individual.
Exactly,
When we were students there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And he's on the board now?
No,
He
he
was
was head of the
president-
trustees.
He
till
was the
about
president of
5
the
years ago.
trustees about 10 years ago, I think. I mean, his term must have ended shortly before we got involved before our 50th reunion, because he was not on the trustee. He was not the president of the trustees in
Okay.
in 2013.
That's correct. That's correct. I consider him one of my very closest friends. We do golf trips every year.
Oh,
We
great.
talk, we have a monthly call. So because we've been on both the Exeter team and then we were on the Yale team together. So we did
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of golf. We've done a lot of golfing together, and he's visited here and I visited up. We're in touch all the time.
Good.
Did you know that Yale's about to do a multi-million-dollar upgrade of its course, which was world-class anyway? The golf course?
Oh, yes, I knew. Yeah, that's a big, big issue. We can talk about that for a good while because
I just mentioned it because I saw it in an alumni newsletter, but I think that one way we could certainly gather a lot more support and get a lot more, calls and emails from alumni would be somehow to be able to broadcast this notion, maybe after tomorrow's call, to the
Wednesday.
alumni
Wednesday's
at
call.
large. I mean, right now, I've always felt that the class of 64 was in a stovepipe, in a silo, and the class of 65 is in another one, and so
Oh,
on.
yeah. Well, that's pretty much the way. Yeah.
There's just not much cross, pollination among the classes.
Well, I think that's definitely the case, but the fact that the General Alumni Association
Yes.
exists and has a presence of 3 people on the trustee,
Right.
president and 2 VPs,
Right.
I think it makes it, but so far they've been mainly a fundraising tool, as I see it.
Sure.
But as you well know, in fundraising, the name of the game is to get people interested and connected, and that just speeds up, the money flows much more easily when people are active and participating. So they should go very closely together. So I think that the clear channel in terms of, notifying people and handling the bureaucracy correctly, the power structure, is at some point, the General Alumni Association and the trustees that are, because there's also a fourth trustee who was an ex-president of the GAA.
So 4 of the trustees are alumni association connection. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
No.
So I mean, that is, and you know who has a special knowledge of that is the people who call on you for the fundraising, both Jan Woodward
Right.
and Amy Faulkner, who
Right.
they know about that stuff, because I mean, obviously that's their business. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So they would probably have some good insights, and I would be
Well-
happy to talk to them, because I talk to them all the time, because class agent and that kind of thing. I'm constantly, and Nat even more so.
Right. Well, I mean, for our 50th reunion year, when I was, really got involved in this, I was, I remember specifically, we tried to approach Jan and the Alumni Association through Jan to see if they could be of any help in disseminating information about the initiative that was called ESI at the time.
Right.
And there were kind of walls between the various classes. They, basically, if you knew the agent for the class of 65 or the class of 60, another class, or even the class of 79 they were having their 35th reunion when we were having our 50th. If you knew some person, you could talk to them, and then if that person would take the initiative to communicate something to his class or her class, whoever it was, that could happen. But like it couldn't be initiated from the General Alumni Association, from the alumni office there on campus. And I think that may be, so it was what Harold Washington was the head of, was that his name?
Yes.
And so I don't know if that, I mean, he's gone on, he's at another school now, I think, or something, but and it could be that has changed, but certainly the alumni office at Exeter has the ability to communicate with every graduate.
Right. I'm just
know,
thinking that, the more I think about it, the more I think it becomes clear to me anyway, that the most recent classes are the ones who really ought to be the most interested in
Yes,
it and
yes.
could really get a lot of oomph behind it. I mean, we're the catalyst, right? We've started this little spark, and we hope to get it to a flame. And then, boy, if it can get out there, then the academy almost would have to say, sure, we're going to do this.
Well, one thing we could do, I mean, this is another thing that would go back to our experience. So we had a website called ESI Exeter, I think, or something like that. It's gone now. But what we had on that website was what was the equivalent of our statement of purpose, something that the people could read about what we were doing, and then they could endorse it. They could add their name and their email address as somebody that went, that we could record everyone who went to that website could add his or her name to being a supporter. So if we had something similar, I don't think Exeter is going to create that for us, but if we had something that people could go and read our statement of purposes, and then they have a couple of other things, and then say, yeah, we support that idea, because I mean that's where you get large numbers of people who could do that. They're not all going to join and become cheerleaders, but that would be one approach, and we could we certainly could. And I believe the website that we had, I forget what service it came through, but it wasn't free, but it also wasn't very much money. I think Joe Simons was saying that he thinks that Foursquare is a cool website that's a good way to build something like that nowadays, but that he thought it would cost a couple $100 a year, and that's still not a lot. But so we need to look into that and see if it's I think we're not quite at the point where we need to create it right away, but that would be a way to collect. And then of course we tried to publicize that a couple of times through. I mean, there's the Exonian group on Facebook, but I still technically belong to Facebook, but I don't use it for anything anymore, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But there are several. I think there are well over 5,000, maybe closer to 10,000 Exonian Exeter graduates who are in that group. So that, and I still see, for example, did you all learn about the article by Nancy Jo Sales about this sexual this most recent sexual misconduct thing that flared up. Did you all get a chance to see that, her
No.
article? Well, okay, that.
I haven't read it, but I saw it in one of the online news feeds I get.
Yeah, I mean, they're very, so I learned about it through the Exonian site. So she
Oh, you
posted
mean
it herself.
the Vanity Fair article?
The Vanity Fair article, yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
I learned I learned about that through a Facebook group. There are
Oh.
other places to learn about it, but so I'm just saying, there's and that I thought about this last night. This new initiative sort of arose from a conversation that Joe Duane and I were having about that after that article. I sent it him, and we were talking about it, and it was, I basically felt that sexual misconduct seized the attention of the Academy for several years and made it impartial to focus on anything else. And that, by the way, this is another angle that kind of relates to that I think we might want to keep in mind, is that has been a source of bad PR for Exeter. It certainly hasn't helped. I would like to say, we certainly talk a lot about the idea of institutional non-SIBI for Exeter. That what we're talking about is something that I think Exeter should do, not because it's benefiting it, but if we can get something like what we're talking about started at Exeter, they should try to share that with the rest, anybody else, any other of the group of schools, the 8 schools they talk about, and colleges. But it would also benefit Exeter if they started getting publicity about something like that they were doing, which was seen as noteworthy and admirable.
Right on.
That would, if they could become so that's the other dimension of leadership that I think we want to inspire them to say, be an institution that leads other similar institutions, but you're the leader, you're the one who started it. So we should continue to point that out when it seems appropriate, I think.
Absolutely, yes. I think that is paramount. I honestly think that's a great angle to take.
Yeah, and if they do it for reasons of trying to pat themselves on the back, that's okay. But they should, and I think even if they, and anyway, so that we don't want to forget that as an angle that I think could be beneficial to us, to our
as a general idea, getting other classes involved as early as possible, I think is really important. I think it matters a lot more, the quality of the champions per class, the people in each class that take initiatives, than a big number.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
it's the representation that makes the whole proposal much more compelling.
Yeah, well, excuse me, I'll go ahead. Somebody else talk.
Well, I wanted to switch to the curriculum angle, because to me, one of the big ahas of the conversation with Andrew was this fact that in the Harkness plan, a course is 14 people, right? If you do 2 editions of it, it's 28 people. So we're looking for something that has much more reach than simply, a course. I think what we're looking at is a system of courses, an articulated system. And because there are merits, when the course, it's really important on the one hand that it be as early as possible, because it has so many connections with other academic fields, and it's so multidisciplinary, and it's such a good opportunity for teaching leadership. But it's also really important that it continued towards the end, when people are preparing for college and so on, because then you're closer to when they can put those ideas into action.
Yeah.
So, and I thought the ideas that Andrew mentioned when he pointed that out, I thought were really led to, he kept saying that, okay, we've had a number of initiatives, but they haven't been connected.
Right. He was very clear about that.
Yeah. And that's
and that our program was cohesive, the word cohesiveness.
Right. So I think connecting them, and it's connecting them through the disciplines and connecting them across time, across the different years.
Mhm.
And you know, there's a really strong argument for making it, let's call it a distributional requirement area.
Mhm.
um, uh, where you would have to, where you would be, you would have to go through a series of progressive studies with this as the underlying topic
Mhm.
as part of your leadership development and understanding of your place in the world and of the academies in the world.
I mean, I think that is, I mean, ultimately that's what we want. I mean, this, you know, not just one course, but a whole sort of program. But it occurs to me that the other thing he mentioned about ways to touch many more people at a time were events that the whole school was invited to, in a sense. So in other words, if in addition to getting a course, a full year course that would you know, possibly touch two classes worth. I mean, the same course could be done by two different classes, perhaps two sections. But that's probably the most we can have hope for. So he says that, you know, that ends up being 2% of the school. But if at the same time they agreed to having something that sort of complements what that would be, but a series of school, open to the whole school, a person, you know, from outside who talks about a particular topic, and the whole school is invited, and it could be recorded, and so that maybe it's made available to people who weren't there for the live thing, but you know, but a way for a significant event to to touch a lot more people. And that's, I mean, it's not a course, but it's a way that he mentioned 2 or 3 things that they've done. You know, they're like having a series of talks by different people, like what Whit was talking about at Yale that last year. So that's maybe something else to pursue as with him again on Wednesday. You know, how does something like that come about? It's not a course, but it's a
series of presentations.
A series of presentations, and it could be as you know, if it was 1 a month, that might be 8 or 9 over the course of the year. If it was not even quite 1 a month, it could be 6 over the course of the year, or something like that. I mean, and there would be some cost to it, and then I guess there'd be also, it would have some impact on academic schedules. I mean, I don't think they have a day set aside once a month when, you know, nothing is scheduled. So they have to make that, you know, if something like that happens, then, you know, whatever normal class has been scheduled gets canceled for that period of time. But I'm sure that, you know, that happens. They do that, and so that would be another approach. And I think I mentioned, you know, that I think certainly Richard Heinberg would be a terrific person to get there. I don't know, and that is, have you had a chance to read Heinberg, Whit? Do you know anything about
I haven't.
Do you know the name?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know, so his most recent book is called Power, and I think I've sent some information around that. It's
Right.
He's a very effective speaker, I think, communicator about these things, and it's a very comprehensive view, and he would be an excellent.
As would Bill McKibben. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
whole host of people
Yeah.
who would be
Well, here's
great.
another person I thought about. I think I mentioned, you remember, for the keynote speaker in 2019 for Climate Action Day was this woman, Co Barrett, who's was one of the 3 co-chairs of the IPCC. My guess is that she's no longer a co-chair, but she's been to Exeter, and she might come back. You know, I mean, she'd be somebody with a lot of punch, I think. And so anyway, I think there's no shortage of people, and I think I was trying to think of a woman. I mean,
Gina McCarthy, who
Yeah.
McCarthy went from the EPA to, what is it, NRDC?
right?
She's a pistol, boy. Wow.
Yeah, and here's another person I hadn't even thought of until right now, and that's Robin Wall Kimmerer,
Oh,
the
yes.
author of Grading Sweetgrass. She's in upstate New York. She's spoken at the Exeter summer program that Jason Vermiller did. She's a wonderful, I mean, she's totally different, because she's, you know, she brings this holistic view of connection between man and nature. But she's wonderful. She's a great educator.
How do you spell it?
Her last name is Kimmerer, Kimmerer.
Right.
Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's the author of Braiding Sweetgrass. She's one of the world's foremost mycologists. Her specialty is
Yeah, a fungi.
yeah. So I mean, she's a great scientist. Her father had Native American roots, and she's sort of taken on this Native American consciousness as an adult. She didn't get a whole lot of it as a child, but she had enough that it, connected with her. And she's just an extraordinary person. So that, we could come up.
Speaking of mycologists, there's always Paul Stamets.
Right.
But he would wind up talking about psilocybin.
But he would. He says he would. He would.
So I had some thoughts on this, the curriculum side of things, that still we have to keep the focus on getting this basic course on the curriculum for next.
I think so too.
And that course, hopefully will cover this gamut from basic science, through the social, economic issues, through the philosophical, man's relation to nature, that whole gamut throughout a year. And that course continues to be offered year after year.
The same course.
By the second year, some more focused courses are also offered, some in the basic sciences, basic climatology issues, dynamics and drivers of climate. You can have a 1 semester or 2 semester course just on power and energy and alternative power. All the solar, wind, all the issues connected with that, as well as then on the philosophical issues. When you get the leadership, really, you can really start focusing in on how to talk to people who don't agree with you, how to talk to people who have vested interests, how to deal with deniability. So those more advanced courses could require that you've already taken that basic
That
course.
basic course, yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you only have 28 people taking that course in 1 year, you could videotape it as it goes. And if you've got these climate clubs or something, you could make this available to other students who, for scheduling reasons or whatever reason, are not able to take the course that year, but want to follow up. And they if they have the time and the interest, they can watch the videos. They know the syllabus. They can do whatever reading they want. And then for the more advanced courses later, the teacher can decide whether someone who hasn't taken that basic course but has done enough work on their own, is eligible. And then you would have those basic, and then you really should have teamwork. These 999 courses where people can focus on the issues that grab them, that they want to dig into deeper. So you could have, a whole cascading upward, a series of opportunities, on the curriculum.
I like that.
That would happen, I think, that could happen if there were enough teachers and students who were interested in those subjects, that there was demand for it. But what I think would really facilitate it would be if the school recognized that modifying their sort of posture about this subject in general, so that they supported having that fuller experience potential. If they got behind that, then that would so that's something they would not decide to do that in just 1 year, but even 5 years from now, they could have a much stronger commitment to providing that kind of experience.
And then as to these outside speakers, hopefully, ideally, you would have this curriculum through the year, and you could identify speakers who could focus on, that aspect, and they could come in at that time they could not only address the entire student body, they could meet with those classes,
Yeah.
and meet with the clubs.
Yeah.
That would be similar to what, remember, I distinctly remember that Nadia Boulanger came and she was a famous,
great.
musicologist.
Musicology, yeah.
College.
And she came and gave, one or two presentations to the full student body, but she did work with individual music classes
Yeah.
as well. Exactly the same thing, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so that'd be the first thing that would start, that costs, some money, and, you would need some funding. So if people like to get behind funding, my idea is to keep funding out of this, because
Right.
that, at the beginning,
As long as we
that
can.
sounds like an obstacle.
Right.
But, but some people like, only or emphasize, funding and contributing in that way, which is fine. And so the travel, expenses to bring in those outside speakers is one thing that costs, a couple bucks, and could be a part of a funding campaign, make people feel all the more participatory in this.
I think Exeter also has some sources of funds like an endowment that probably could easily absorb that.
Now, it's a
years.
notion of participation.
I know.
Yeah, every opportunity that presents itself to raise money, they're gonna bring that up.
They've thought of most of them, but we could, yeah.
And yes, but I think you're right, Joe. Let's keep that out of the conversation as long as we can.
So what should we?
The other aspect, not to just digress from this at all, but the other aspect that Joe originally brought up is as the third leg of this whole thing was, how Exeter invests its money.
Yes.
And there's such a tight connection between Exeter and Harvard, particularly the head of the Kennedy School and the head of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences of the Harvard faculty are trustees of Exeter.
Wow.
Aha.
So there's a really, really strong connection. So they know all about how Harvard has made this big statement about how they're going to completely, tailor their investment portfolio, huge investment portfolio, so that it does not support people that are damaging the environment and strongly helps those that are being responsible and who are generating action to address the deadlines we have.
Yeah, I think
When you say these people are trustees, does that mean they're Exeter graduates? I mean,
Yes,
does Exeter have?
yeah.
I
One of
mean,
them is
Exeter doesn't have any trustees that aren't graduates at this point, do they? I mean, they're all.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
That's correct. The two names, Claudine Gay, she's the head of the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. She's originally from Haiti.
Mhm.
She's a tough customer, according to Jim Rogers. She is tough as a nail. I mean, she is she's won all the prizes you can as far as academics. I mean, she's the best thesis, best PhD. She's been Dean of Sociology, the Dean of the Political Science Department. And she's quite young still, but she just doesn't take any prisoners at all. Here's just really a tough customer. And the other one is has a very friendly, homey looking face, which contrasts my experience with the Kennedy School. But she's one of the deans of the Kennedy School, which is, has that worldwide reach. It's very,
Right.
all that, it's public policy oriented.
Yes.
Her name, I think, is O'Byrne, but I have it written here somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, back to curriculum. I sent a thing I just came across, and I sent it around to everybody.
Yes.
But Yale has a program on climate, and as part of that, they've developed a curriculum for K through 12. Actually,
Yes.
I didn't dive too deep. I looked at it a bit. Didn't seem all that deep, but their notion, their explanation of why it was important, and their objective of spreading this and beyond Yale and cooperating with others is exactly what we're talking about. But Exeter could take that and really focus on the secondary level 9 through 12 and come up with a real superlative program.
So that is a great thought, Joe, because
That's wonderful.
the School of Forestry at Yale has had, particularly the last 20 years, has been on center stage the whole time. They've been powerful, and all kinds of things. They've done all these outreach initiatives. They've done all kinds of really, really, really great stuff. I'm not up to date with it, but I know one of the guys who I happen to get to know, who I can't remember his name right now, but he just came up with all these things that you're mentioning that are really powerful stuff.
Not, the name Gus Speth came
Yeah,
up.
as you
in
say,
the
Gus
conversation.
Speth, wasn't he at the Yale Forestry?
He was dean there for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gus Speth.
I've met him. He's amazing. He's,
Yeah, that's not the one I'm thinking of. The one I'm thinking of, I got to know, but I'll find it. I find it.
Okay.
But I just found who the dean of the Harvard Kennedy School is also the president of the General Alumni Association at Exeter.
now.
Right now, Janie Wilson is her name.
Uh-huh.
Janie Wilson, class of 83. She was
83.
elected in 2018.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, these are all,
Well, that's good, Joe. So they're Exeter, if they start running with this idea, they don't have to plow new ground because they can go look at what Yale has already done to get some ideas.
exactly.
Yeah, I think it'd be
And just-
great for one of us to try to find that and put it in front of Andrew somehow.
Find what?
Whatever that program that Joe's talking about.
Oh, it's on the website. You can, he sent, you have the link to the website and it's
I
just,
sent you an email this morning.
Oh,
send it around.
I guess I
Yeah.
haven't seen it. I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't see it, but
if you,
I
if
think-
you can't find it, let us know and we'll send it again.
Yeah. Now, did you also send it to Andrew? Because it'd be great if he'd have that in his head for tomorrow's call.
Wednesday call,
Wednesday call, excuse me.
We could send it before we talk, or we could
Okay, I
talk
think
about it.
We should look at it first and
Yeah,
figure
we
out
should look at it maybe more and
how it
then,
relates to what we're trying to do.
yeah, I think so too. I think there's no,
Should know what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Which
Yeah.
one of us is going to do that? I mean, I think we've got to figure out that's going to take some time.
Well, you're a Yaley. Go ahead. Good.
it's not,
Thanks.
it's not, I don't think it's that, I don't think it's not too much to look into in just, a couple of hours. It's not,
Okay,
but
I'll do it.
so this is Lazarowitz, is that his name? It's about the communication about climate change, that, that group at Yale that's been doing these surveys, been looking at public opinion about climate change for years. Anthony Lazarowitz, I think is his name. So he's at Yale and he's the one, his name is also in this program that Joe sent the link that
Okay.
called climate change communication, I think is what they call
Now
climate
I did
communication.
see that. Yeah,
So
Lazaro.
Anthony Lazarowitz he's been doing a lot of good work around public awareness of climate issues for at least 10 years, if not closer to 20. I don't know, at least 10 years.
Okay.
So I don't know how much longer we want to go today. We're getting close to an hour, I think. Do we want to talk about specific strategy for things we want to mention on Wednesday, or how we're going to go about that? Or, Andrew may have some revelations for us that we don't know anything at all about.
As I remember it, that was the way the ball ended up in his court, right? He's
Mhm,
got to kind of come back
That's right.
with the results of his conversations with the students and faculty.
Yeah, he was gonna try to talk to us. I mean, he didn't put a time frame on it, but it sounded like he thought that he had something. He had in mind people at Exeter who he thought would be sparked by, he was talking about embers that we've lit or something like that.
Right,
And he
right.
so he actually sounded eager to do it, but of course, he's got, school is, the academic year is taking a lot of time. So I don't know how much time he's had to.
Yeah, I think he actually warned us that he might only be halfway through whatever it was, because it was very short notice. And
Yeah.
I noticed anytime I mention anything to my granddaughter, it's like, oh, it's like my list of to-dos, is about 2 weeks old, has a lead time of 2 weeks already. So
That's a reality that we have to
Yeah.
deal with. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, one of the things that I would like to stress is that we have a strong sense that it would be really beneficial to get this 1-year course ready to go for next year. that if that's an idea that has merit and it's a relatively focused thing, that we shouldn't push that off, because that's just going to, if that doesn't go for another year, it's just we lost a year of getting that started. So I think that would be, I would like to get from him a schedule for how, if it is to happen,
yeah,
by next fall, to start next fall, would it have to all be in place by Christmas time this year? I mean, when does there's a lead time on getting a course that's going to be, so how,
my experience with curriculum issues in schools is really long lead times.
yeah, so we just need to find out, how realistic is it to say if we get started on it now, and if it doesn't get started until 2 months from now,
Right.
is it a lost cause then? I mean, we just need
The
to,
other thing that we said, we were going to hold back on doing any connections with anything, with anybody in the Exeter community until he gave us his thoughts about what he thought worked best in terms of what we can do.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to, we said we can open ourselves to, I think something we can deal with, like if he has any ideas for things that we can do, but we can talk amongst ourselves all we want, but that's, we're not the ones who can do things
Right.
the way that they can.
Right.
So, but we can, so about all we can do would be to rally troops to support the idea, as we talked about earlier, just getting the word out to more classes and having a way for people to say, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it. And he did mention on our last Tuesday when we met that getting evidence of more support among different classes would be a good thing. He did mention that for sure. And he didn't. That wasn't in response to a question that came from him. That he just thought that would be a valuable thing to have. So, we could.
So where did we leave when we talked about the alumni people, Jan and Amy Faulkner and those people? How did we leave that? Because they would probably be able to point out, 10 or 12 or 15 alumni they know are really interested in other classes that would be interesting for us to contact.
Yeah, I think, if you feel, I don't want to put too much, I mean, if the question to Jan would be,
yeah,
how can you put us in touch with people, or if you can't do it, how, I think just, what are the mechanics of reaching out to other classes? Because we don't really, unless we know somebody in another class who has wants to. So that's, I had a distinct feeling 7 years ago that the alumni, they sort of had a policy in the alumni office that they dealt with one class, with people in one class could communicate to the members of their class, but they couldn't initiate things between classes. Maybe they can now.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely write Amy and Jan a little note about that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other way to go is simply find the Nat Butler of each class who's going to say, "Oh no, the guys you got to talk to so and so, so and so, so and so."
Yeah, well, there's that too.
Yeah.
I think that one of the people in the class of '65, the class behind us, I believe, is Charlie McDowell. You remember Charlie McDowell?
Oh yeah,
Charlie
McDowell is the third one that's the third guy we play golf with. Jim,
Yeah,
Charlie, and I are the ones that do the golfing.
he's pretty conservative, I think.
He's got the most advanced community development in Wilmington, Delaware right now. It's they just got $40 million from the central government. It is phenomenal. That's all he does now.
Okay, but I mean, I'm not sure that, I don't know where he stands on the issue, for example, of climate change.
I'll find that out. I talked to him.
Yeah, I think he's pretty conservative about political things. So we just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, I would.
Granville Burgess, who was the class of '66, and he was active in ESI.
Yeah.
So he would be
another golfer.
You know him?
Oh, really well. Yeah.
So Grant, he was pretty active with us for a long time. As a matter of fact, when we had four of us had the first meeting with Lisa McFarlane, but she became principal, and Granny was one of the four. It was Granny and me, and then Sue Kaplan and her husband Evan James.
Got it.
So he's been,
Well, maybe you
he
can
was
reach
living
out,
in-
you can reach out to Grant if you've got already that connection. Maybe it's just a matter of just picking it up again.
we could, I mean, I think he's, yeah, I mean, but I think you know him better than I do. I just know him through,
Possibly.
I haven't talked to him now in, 4 or 5 years. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't communicated with him. So if you know him, his theater is his thing, and he's pretty creative guy.
Yep.
And then, but then I still, I mean, I still haven't heard back from Sue Kaplan. I've sent her the recording of last week, and I did talk to her by phone when she was going, end of last week as she was going somewhere, and we had a very good conversation. And that's when I learned that she's now teaching this twice a week course at UNH on sustainability on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that she gave me the impression that other days she might be able to do something. So the fact that this was Wednesday, I sent her and I let her know that we have something scheduled for Wednesday, and I just haven't heard back from her, and I don't know how busy she is.
Got it.
But she'd be, I would love to get a woman involved and somebody a little bit younger than we are. She's 15 years younger. And she's definitely committed.
Yeah.
And then the other person is Jay, what's his name? Jay. What's our classmate's first name? Jay, I forget.
Beatty?
Great. Pardon?
Beatty?
Beatty. Yeah. Jay
Beatty.
Beatty's wife
Joe Beatty.
is
Beatty.
Beatty. Yeah. His
Chloe.
wife is maybe a few years younger, and so they're having a big reunion this year. So I met her briefly when I was on campus a couple of weeks ago, and she was Jan was leading she and somebody else around, leading her around, and they were making plans for a reunion. So she's very active in alumni affairs. So I don't know how she's.
She used to work in the administration, didn't she?
I don't know much about her.
I think she did for a while.
Okay.
as I
Well,
recall.
so you can find out, Jan would know what her particular, why she was there that day that I was there, the day that I met with Andrew face to face.
Do you happen to remember what her name is?
Don't you, Whit? I mean, I met her, but I
can't
didn't.
quite remember her last name. Chloe, it's not Beatty.
Well,
You pronounce it Beatty then. I thought it was Beatty. Okay, Beatty.
I heard it as Beatty, but I never.
It
knew.
was always Jay Beatty,
Okay. Jay
right?
Beatty.
Am I
Okay.
right, Joe?
Yes, it is. J.G. Beatty.
Okay, Jay Beatty.
Jay
we-
Beatty and Chloe, somebody or other.
Beatty, maybe.
No, definitely not.
Always their daughter.
Oh,
Chloe's
Chloe's
the
daughter.
daughter.
Yes.
Oh, no, he married. Wait, he also married a Chloe.
Oh,
I'm almost positive. A younger woman, younger Exonian.
I mean, yeah, I had the feeling that she was, maybe 5 years younger or something like
Yes.
that. I don't know, something like that.
Something like that.
Well, I mean, certainly Jan would know. You could say that,
Yes.
a reminder that we ran into her just as soon as I got there. I saw them up near the new theater. I had parked in the garage underneath the field house to plug into to recharge my car, and I was walking away from there, and they were coming toward me. So we talked for couple minutes.
That theater is an incredible.
That's quite a
Right.
place, and yeah. Anyway, so I mean, I think we have some leads that of a few names that have come up here that we can pursue. I'm not sure that I'm maybe not the best person to pursue any of that because I don't know them. But if you can run with that, we can begin to explore ways to reach out to other Exonians, classes younger than us for the most part, and we certainly can explore what we could do in terms of setting up a website that is, as long as it wouldn't be, I think as soon as we get a sense of let's go with it from Andrew about we're going to try to make something happen, then I think then maybe if we need to invest something, find some funds to start a website, we can do it. I think it maybe is a little bit too early to commit to that right now, but maybe after Wednesday we could decide that was something we could do, and I think it wouldn't be that hard to get set up.
mhm.
And So you can always, I think we used MailChimp as the form that people could fill out to sign up to, there's certainly ways to do that with any website. So. But then we have to have a way to publicize so that it's there to classes, have a way to get the word out to people where they should go to try to learn about what we're doing and how to express support. But that's, so
Joe Simon's in the class of 63 also, right?
Joe is 63, that's right.
Yeah, so does it make sense to ask him to add a couple of his classmates?
Well, he doesn't have a strong connection with a lot of people, but I mean, he said he came to one reunion in his life, that his 50th. But he has, he knows some people, and we had 2 or 3 people. The guy who set up the website for ESI was a class of 63. That's I still see his name from time to time. I can't think of it right now, but anyway, I can find it. So, I mean, certainly there would be some people of 63, but I think, the other person I would like to get active, maybe I should write to her myself. Joe Simons wrote to Sophie Robinson Saltonstall. She's now added Saltonstall to her name. She's class of 2007, and she's a real crackerjack on climate issues and organizing and stuff. She's now gotten married and has a child less than a year old, but she lives up the road in Stratham, New Hampshire, just right up from Exeter. It's where she in the property that she grew up on. Her mother was the daughter of Bill Saltonstall's younger brother, who was a doctor in the Exeter area.
Yes.
So I forget his name was not. It was the last name was Saltonstall. So her last name is not Saltonstall, but her mother's last name was Saltonstall before she was married. So now Sophie has added Saltonstall to her name. And she would, if she has space to do anything, and I think maybe if she, I would send her the statement of purpose and various, and just let her see that this is something a little more substantial than just she got a message from Joe that and she didn't respond to it, but I've communicated with her quite a bit too, so I could try to see if we can wake her up.
That sounds important.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I will take that. I will take that challenge.
Good. If I were a golfer, I would take up I would take a couple names off of John's list, but I'm not a golfer.
I'm not either. I have not played a single hole of golf in my life.
Oh, dear.
I played the Yale course once when I was a graduate student on a beautiful November day. It was gorgeous. There wasn't anybody out there, which is a good idea because I would have got hit by stray golf balls, but it was a complete hoot. I just loved it. It was really fun. I promised myself at the time that I wouldn't take up golf till I reached at least 50, and here I am 75 almost, and I haven't taken it up yet.
Well,
I promised myself to wait a long time because it was such fun, and I realized it could really gobble up a lot of time.
Oh, it's way too serious and way too difficult. It's ridiculous.
Yes,
yeah.
but it was a wonderful, wonderful way to take a walk on a beautiful November afternoon.
Well, I can't help you there. I've gone to golf courses to run around them because it's a good place for exercise. But that's it.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you for this. I think we'll do the best we can on Wednesday to move the ball forward a little bit more, or whatever metaphor you want.
Good.
And we'll. And I think Andrew may very well surprise us with some things that he's been busy on that we don't know anything about.
Good.
Yep.
But it'd be really interesting to get engaged in that conversation on Wednesday. See where he's gone, where he would like to take it, what kind of a push he might need.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was it 2:00 Wednesday?
2 o'clock Wednesday.
2 o'clock.
And you have the link, but I will send the link around to everybody again tomorrow.
Good.
I will, I'm gonna have to leave the computer behind and switch to my phone because I have to get to a dentist appointment that's about half an hour away at 3 o'clock appointment, but I'll try to stay engaged in the call.
Okay, well, you can, and I mean, you'll have to get off and then get back on when you're,
Yes.
but you can do that. And yeah, just be sure you have the link.
Yes,
You have to log in again.
right. Good.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you
well,
all.
we'll see. I guess, you know when Peter is coming back from whatever is he away already from his home?
I've lost track of him. I've lost
Okay,
track of him.
yeah, he hasn't communicated for a while. So, when he does come back, I think we'll figure out a way to get this
Okay.
this recording. Just hang on to it for a while, and then,
Okay.
Joe, are you still in the States?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
For how much longer, until the end of this month?
I think I'm actually going to extend it another 10 days past that or something till first week or at the end of the first week of November or something like that.
Okay. Well, it's nice to have you here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Glad to be here.
it's also wonderful to be able to call somebody in Bangkok whenever I want to, but that's
So Joe, what part of Pennsylvania where are you exactly?
In Bucks County, it's 40 miles north of Philadelphia, about 90
Okay.
miles west of New York City, and it's in the countryside. It's Trump country. Not too many people wear masks around here.
Kidding. Are you aware of this series this series American Rust that occurs in Pennsylvania?
No.
Oh, it is dark. That's the name says everything. It's, one of completely fallen apart. It's this town that just doesn't have anything going anymore. Has the old plant and everybody's in bad shape, and it's heart wrenching, but it's very well done. It's Jeff Daniels plays the sheriff, the police guy, and so on. Pretty good, but it's very dark.
We have a good friend who just got back from a trip out to Montana and Wyoming. She saw Bozeman, Montana, which is probably one of the few liberal places in that state.
That's right.
She loved it there. But she went to some dude ranch in Wyoming that was run run by people mostly from Tennessee, and a lot of the guests were Tennesseans. And she said people were openly hostile to her when they found out she was from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Openly hostile. Just
Yeah.
amazing.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
Crazy.
that's another reality that we have to deal with. And
Yes, it
I can't help thinking that if the 2022 election keeps things moving in a more productive direction from our point of view, that will help a lot. But
Yes,
that's still a big question mark.
that's a long pull.
Yeah.
Sure. Well,
So,
good. We'll see you all on Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Conrad and